Hey y'all, I know it's been a while since I've been on this channel and so much has happened. I have to do a recap for y'all. So the last time I spoke to y'all, I was jet setting around Costa Rica. I did ayahuasca, I left the country, I moved, all types of things. As you can see in that very fast clip, I had a very robust year off, but I go into detail in the book that I'm writing. That's why I'm breezing over this. I'll be happy to do a tell all really soon, a mini video when I do what my year has looked like after ayahuasca. So, how my life has changed since then. So, make sure you turn on your post notifications so you can know when I upload that video. And since then, I have been in what I call the in between phase, and I'm finally on the outside of that phase. I'm on the other side of it. Clap for your girl. So much has happened during my time in Costa Rica. So much of my spiritual gifts came online. Shortly after I did ayahuasca, I started to tap into my ancestral gifts, reconnected with my ancestors, reconnected with who I was at my core, and I started to integrate everything that was coming up for me. I learned how to trust myself again and listen to my intuition. We're now heading into like year 2 of my sabbatical, and what I realized was I was stuck in this loop of constantly overperforming, overworking, hustling, tying my value to how much I worked and what my titles were and what I did, and just tying it to external performance, right? And last year, being in that void of not knowing what was coming next allowed me to kind of relax, get still, get comfortable with sitting still, and reconnecting with my body and who I was outside of all that performance, outside of societal conditioning, outside of who I thought I had to be and what I had to do to be quote unquote successful. Because if you've been following me and you go watch all of my videos, you'll know that I have accomplished all the things that we deem as success, right? I've had the career, the job, the roles, the money, the successful business, the engagement, all the things. And they weren't in alignment with who I am at my core. And so it took me first recovering from autistic burnout, and I developed my 4-phase method of recovery. And I also created a symptom tracker to track all my symptoms to see like what the patterns were and what I was experiencing. It's funny because my mom had been telling me all my life that I had a special gift for seeing people at their core and who they are and anything that may be keeping them stuck. And I know how to relate and talk to people in a way to make them feel seen, heard, and understood. I just didn't know what that looked like in practice, like how I was going to work with clients consistently to do that. I found that out in 2025. I had 4 people that I saw for free, and I even got some really good feedback. One of them said that they wanted me to be their therapist, that I was better. They had different therapists that they were seeing for different things, and I was better than all of them combined. I was like, "Oh my gosh, me?" Through doing that, that was the building blocks for where I am right now. I didn't even realize it. And it wasn't until the end of last year where I realized that everything that I went through was a culmination of me coming back home to myself, me understanding who I was just as I am, like just in simply existing. And so at the beginning of the summer, I came up with what I call soul activation. It is a model for high achieving women, high masking women who probably have experienced complex PTSD. I created a graphic to like clearly explain what I'm about to say. And I realized that there is a pattern that constantly shows up for that type of woman because I am that type of woman. And oftentimes things like burnout or a career pivot or a loss of a job or a change of relationships are what I call decision points. And it's a moment that tells us that we are probably out of alignment, and it's giving us the opportunity to get back into alignment, right? And so in creating my 4-phase soul activation model, I realized that high functioning survival mode was exactly what this specific group of women were experiencing. But oftentimes, your life looks great on paper. It looks like everything is working out and it's going fine. But deep inside, under the surface, behind closed doors, you are drowning. You're overwhelmed, you're tired, you're burnt out. Something feels misaligned. You may not know what. You know that something needs to change, but you may not know how you're going to execute that change, but you know it needs to change. I realized that an important component of navigating this is being in community. I had to navigate this with my community spread out all over the place, and it was very difficult. And so it's easier to go through this and come back home to yourself when you're doing it alongside people who are also on the same journey. That is what I was experiencing, and that is what soul activation is for. And me thinking through what that work could look like, I created a cohort that I'm launching in March 2026 so that we can come together as a community to work through restabilizing our nervous system, reconnecting with our body, doing mindset work to let go of survival mode and all of the coping mechanisms we may have developed to navigate through survival mode. So, overperformance, tying your value to how hard you work, not being comfortable with sitting still, over functioning in relationships, people pleasing, self abandonment, not paying attention to your needs, ignoring your body signals, all of those things are different coping mechanisms. And if you look at the graph that I created, you'll see some of them listed. I also created one-on-one private sessions to work with high achieving women, high masking women who are very successful in their careers, but they're looking to explore entrepreneurship. They're looking to come back home to themselves, whether that be like changing their career, changing the role that they play, or navigating some sort of change in their life that will bring them closer to alignment and walking from a place of alignment instead of overperformance or overworking or survival. So, if that is you, I want you to do something. I created a free quiz that you can take to see what phase of soul activation you're in. Whether you're in the decision point where you're just at the beginning of the journey where you know something needs to change, or you're at the point where you've made the change, but you're navigating this scary in between where you've walked away from what no longer fits, but you don't know quite what you're walking towards. Like, you don't know how it unfolds. You don't know what comes next. You just know whatever comes next is going to be aligned and it's going to be amazing. But it's scary, right? You're trying to sit still, you're trying to trust the process, but you're like, oh my gosh, do I need to go back? Do I need to do more things, work harder, get clear? No, there's a specific way to tackle that phase. And I describe it. Once you take the quiz, you get the assessment and all the results and what to do. Or you could be on the other side. Like, you've made it through that void, that liminal space, the in between, as I call it. And you're like, okay, now it's time for me to create some structures that hold my life in a place of alignment versus survival mode, versus me having to hustle all the time. What does that look like? And that's who I work with on one-on-one. That's what I help people uncover. We walk through all these phases and then I build the structures with you to hold you. And then the ending of that is where you're sustaining this. So every decision that you make is from a place of alignment so that you're not recreating the survival loops or this burnout loop where you're always working hard, taking a break, working hard, taking a break. And then you're burning out in between all of that, or your relationships feel like I give to everyone else, but I don't totally feel like I get fully supported or poured back into. None of that. No more of that. And so that's what we do one-on-one. If you want to do private sessions in the cohort, we work through the phases at a higher level so that we are making sure that internally our nervous system is safe enough to hold the work that we're doing externally. So if you're interested in any of that, all the links to everything will be in the caption below. Take the free quiz, see what phase you're in, and then we could chat.